Revenge films.
That day, my husband, our 1-year-old son, and I went to visit the graves of my parents-in-law. That's when my husband did something outrageous. The graveyard was located atop a hill, so I parked the car and we hiked up the hill. When we finally arrived at the peak, my husband realized that he forgot to bring his lighter. He had our son in his arms, so I told him to wait there while I go to get his lighter. Then I run to the car and grab the lighter. When I returned to the gravesite, a shocking scene awaited me. Our son was sitting on top of the tombstone, the highest part of this place. What's even more frightening was that he was not supported by anything at all. What is he doing? Seriously, what in the world are you thinking? What if our son falls to the ground? My husband was nowhere to be seen. First of all, our son is only a year old and couldn't balance himself yet. Since babies have big heads, they're heavier almost than their entire body. They have more difficulty keeping that position up there. Who in their right mind would place a child up there? Is he out of his mind? My husband sure needs to get a scolding after this. But I couldn't find my husband anywhere. Where in the world did he go after leaving our son in a dangerous position? Not understanding the seriousness of the situation, our son was clapping his hands and smiling in my arms. I can't believe my husband would do such a careless thing. But I'm glad that our son is fine, so he came out unscathed. Feeling relieved after seeing my son all right, my husband came walking back. When he arrived, something utterly shocking came to his lips. What? What do you mean by why? What were you trying to do? Are you serious or are you just plain crazy? What were you thinking putting a 1-year-old on top of a gravestone to sit? What if he fell and had a serious injury? Are you going to take responsibility for him?
But he didn't fall, right? What are you getting all worked up about?
I was furious at my husband for not apologizing at all. He didn't even think that what he did was a very dangerous act for our son. I attacked my husband right then and there. After that, just when I calmed down a bit, I asked him why he placed our son up there. But an even more shocking answer came to his lips.
I just thought of taking pictures of Kota from that small elevation of bushes over there. Because the view is wonderful and, the weather's great.
You've got to be kidding me. It just looks dangerous to me. I couldn't take his questionable actions and reasoning anymore, so I brought our son to the car and put on the seatbelt. And I left my husband to ponder on his actions. After that, he came home using the train and a taxi, but he never admitted to his actions being wrong. He instead complained about me leaving him in the graveyard. How about you reflect on what you've done instead of complaining about what was done to you? If I hadn't seen Kota before it was too late, he would have fell and got injured. Or worse, he could have fallen into his death. What's more is that you were standing several meters away from him. It would have been fine if you were right there by his side, but you were not. What if he got off balance? You wouldn't have been able to help him.
I told you, I was trying to take a commemorative photo of our son.
Who in their right mind would take a commemorative photo of their children at a graveyard? What kind of idiot would do such a thing? Have you seen anyone who took pictures of their child, who just turned a year-old sitting on top of a gravestone? Don't you think it's rude to your parents to do such a thing to their gravestone?
I don't talk about graveside stories of the people around me. Besides, when I was a baby, my parents did the same thing to me. They placed me on top of a gravestone and took photos of me.
Those words shook me to my core and I was lost for words. Speechless, I stood there with my jaw literally dropped for a few seconds. According to my husband, when he was a baby, his parents placed him on top of a gravestone and took pictures of him. That sort of makes sense. If his parents who raised him don't have any common sense, then it kind of makes sense why he turned out this way. But still, this extremely unpleasant act of taking a commemorative photo at the graveyard, it astonished me and got me thinking twice about the man I married. Then the next day, my husband brought several photos of him as a baby atop the gravestone. And with a self-satisfied look on his face, he said,
See, look at all these pictures. My father used to do this to me as well. Just what I told you. I win.
He said it was some sort of competition. The more I knew about my husband and his family, the more I questioned my taste in men. Your family is the only family who does such a reckless and dangerous act. When I told him that, he started to get angry. However, that wasn't the end of the series of questionable behavior and words from my husband. The next string of words blew up my entire mind, questioning his entire existence.
My father sat me on the gravestone when I was a baby and didn't fall for 15 minutes. Because of that, I was recognized as a vigorous baby boy with a strong vitality. If, for example, Kota fell from the gravestone, it would mean that he didn't inherit his grandfather's strong spirit, right? If that happens, all we need to do is make another child, right? It's that simple, no need to complicate it.
It's that simple? Sometimes I wonder how you were able to function with that stupid brain of yours. You simpering simpleton! What do you think about the life of your child? His life is not something that can be replaced, you know. Also, you said earlier that you placed Coda there to take commemorative pictures of him, but that was what you were trying to do from the start, right?
Actually, that is, you know. It really is true that I was trying to take commemorative pictures. Listen, we can look back on it as a fond memory, you know?
Babies are not toys, you know? You've got to be kidding me. Get a hold of yourself! Filled with rage, I shouted at my husband and took our son with me out of the house. My parents were surprised that I came home on such short notice. But when I explained to them the very unusual and unforgivable happening, my father was also filled with anger and said,
"There's no need to get back to that crazy husband of yours. I will never allow him to hold my grandson."
Then I immediately called my husband and told him that I wanted to get a divorce. We then set up a face-to-face meeting and talked about it like we should, but I didn't know when he would use abusive language again, so I brought a voice recorder with me to secretly record him during our meeting. Then, as expected, he started spitting out words abusively as soon as he took a seat.
Thinking? Assaulting me and discarding the responsibilities?
Assaulting you? That was me just trying to defend our helpless son. He couldn't slap you, so I did it on his behalf. It's just right for me to do that, considering what you've done to him to put his life in danger. Besides, I'm not a housekeeper. Despite all that, you still don't understand the severity of what you've done to our son. You tried to bring your son to his death, you know. Are you even aware of that?
As a result, he wasn't wounded nor lost his life, so it's fine, right? There's no need to make a fuss about it. When are you going to stop talking about this thing that happened in the past? You're not a child anymore, so stop mumbling and complaining.
The reason why Coda didn't fall and get injured was only because I noticed him in time.
Shut up! He is just a child. We can make another one if we lose him. You're still young, so you can create as many as you can. Come on. I'll help you create another one so we can get a better one in one go.
Not able to think straight, I got even more furious. Go away! Leave this house this instant! I'm gonna go insane if I continue talking to you like this. Then hearing those words come out of my lips, he said,
All right. Let's get divorced. I don't need a son who can't stand the test of the gravestone anyway. You're too weak a person to reject my goodwill, to create another child with you. I don't need you anymore anyway.
Just like that, I was able to get divorced from him, but after the divorce, our friends, neighbors, and acquaintances, all the people around me started looking at me with cold eyes. One reason was that my husband actually ticked off all of the boxes of an ideal man in the eyes of society. Because of that same reason, the women around me got jealous when I married him. That's also why my husband's reputation was always good. This so-called ideal husband spread false rumors that the reason for our divorce was because I abandoned housework and childcare and played around instead. That I didn't fulfill my duty as a mother. One of his relatives told me, so I made them listen to the recorded voice of Noiro and showed the pictures that he took of our son sitting on top of the gravestone. The reason why Norio and I got divorced is because of this picture. That single picture spoke 1,000 words. I then turned on the recorded voice and they couldn't believe what they were hearing. Do you still think that your relative is a person with common sense after hearing this? Would you still say that Norio is right? They were speechless and turned red with embarrassment. If you still think that what he did is right, then why don't you do the same thing to your child? It's a very dangerous act. Your child might fall to his death, though. If your child fails the test and falls to his death, would you be able to robotically tell your wife to create another baby with you? After telling that to their face, they went pale and went home defeated. When I explained the truth to everyone else who believed the false rumors about me, they all drew me away from my husband. I was seen as the villain when we just had our divorce, but after explaining the truth and clearing out the misunderstanding, they all started taking my side. My ex-husband was called an ideal man by society because he graduated from a famous top university and worked at a large company for elites. But when news spread that we got divorced, his co-workers and the people around him became curious about the reason why. The truth spread like lightning, and not long after, everyone knew that he got divorced because of the graveyard incident and his abusive language towards me. Haven't you heard? Rumors say that he tried his 1-year-old son and put him on the top of a gravestone.
Huh? Trial? What kind of trial?
Something he inherited from his parents. He's like a psychopath for doing something dangerous like that to a baby. What in the world was he thinking? I can't imagine what would have happened if the child fell. I heard he told his wife that they'll just make another baby, you know?
Unbelievable. Does he think a baby's a robot or something? He's the worst kind of father there is. I pity the child.
When the rumors spread like that, people started avoiding him until no one wanted to have him around. A few months later, he got severely depressed and ended up quitting his job. Then I filed to the lawyer with the voice recording as evidence. Because of that, I was able to demand and receive alimony from my ex-husband. Thinking back to that time when all this happened, I knew that I made the right decision to get divorced. That time when I came back from the car to get the lighter and saw my son sitting on top of the gravestone, I really thought that my heart would stop. If my son fell that day from the high place, I honestly can't imagine what I would have done to my husband. I think that my husband might still have had a more dangerous side to him. I really think that it was the right decision to let him go. Well, I don't plan to allow him to meet my son ever again, though.
How was today's video? If you enjoyed it, please subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Stay tuned for more.